president also made a joke about you that I won't repeat, Senator Warren.
That was the
actually, I will.
one.
He said he had reservations.
If this was a joke, why not just say so?
It was a joke, and he made a joke about you too, Senator Warren.
Yes,
got
he
a
did.
lot of laughs. Got a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
So.
Mayhem is happening in your home state. ICE is operating around the US, but it's only in Minnesota that we are seeing this sort of violent uprising on a regular basis, with law enforcement being obstructed, being attacked. And we also had this storming of a church that has led to the arrest of Don Lemon.
Yeah, the reason, Rita, is that our elected officials, starting with Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, are openly encouraging the rioting and the interfering with ICE's efforts to apprehend illegal aliens, which of course is a federal crime. These officials are trying to make it impossible to enforce federal law in Minnesota. It is very much like what states like South Carolina did in the years leading up to the Civil War. Tim Walz has even talked publicly about being at war with the federal government and has referred to Fort Sumter, which of course is where the Civil War began, when South Carolina troops fired on a Union fort, and Tim Walz is actually invoking that. So the reason why things are so crazy in Minnesota, at least the primary reason, is because our elected officials are actively encouraging the lawlessness.
And they may have some motivation to do that because Minnesota was caught in an unprecedented fraud scandal, and we're not talking about that anymore. And President Donald Trump has said that fraud in Minnesota is worse than what has been reported. He wrote, the theft and fraud in Minnesota is far greater than the $19 billion originally projected. The Biden administration knew this fraud was happening and did absolutely nothing about it. John, he's singled out Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and the governor Tim Walz as being complicit in this unprecedented fraud. Do you see it that way?
Well, what's basically happening here, Rita, is that this was a vote-buying scheme. Certainly, Governor Tim Walz knew that frauds were going on. Ilhan Omar knew they were going on, and they did nothing because they wanted to encourage all of this money flowing out into the Somali community. What happened here is that the DFL party pumped billions and billions of dollars into the Somali community here in Minnesota and created a voting bloc that is decisive in close elections. So it didn't make any difference to Tim Walz or Ilhan Omar whether the dollars that were being pumped out were legitimate or were fraudulent. They were dollars that were going to their voters. Now, Ilhan Omar drafted the law that created the program that enabled the $500 million Feeding Our Future fraud. And she also reported her own financial reports that her net worth went from essentially zero to $30 million in 1 year. Now, is there a connection? We don't know, but she certainly benefits from the Somali voting bloc that those government programs have created.